Hi everyone, welcome to Unscripted Coding. Today we're going to take a peek at Auto GPT. We're just going to play around with it and take a look at the code and set it up and see what it can do. But for those of you who haven't heard, Auto GPT is this open source script that is very simple in idea, but it gives chat-gpt a lot of additional power. So for those of you unfamiliar with it, living under a rock, clearly, chat-gpt is this new chatbot, AI chatbot that does remarkably well answering questions. So you can ask it factual questions, sometimes it gets things wrong, but you can ask it to write blog posts, fix emails, write you a poem. It answers human language very well. And so it's a chatbot. You ask it questions, it responds. Where Auto GPT comes in is it starts asking itself questions. So it sets up the next question to ask ChatGPT and asks ChatGPT to then formulate the next question it should ask. Now, we're going to take a look at how this works by digging into the code, but this idea makes it self-perpetuating. It doesn't need a whole lot of prompts. It doesn't need you to sit here and have a conversation and issue instructions to ChatGPT to get things done. You can give it a broad goal, in theory, and have it kind of chase it down and have the AI write the next prompt, have it respond, and have it write the next prompt and have it respond. It's almost like pitting two AI chatbots against each other, but this time towards a common goal. If you take a look at their demo, it's pretty cool because what they've asked, and I don't think I can actually full screen it here, but I can zoom in a little bit. It's asking for over here, increase net worth, grow Twitter account, develop and manage multiple businesses autonomously. And then it gives you a couple of goals. Invent an original and out-of-the-box recipe, save the resulting recipe to file, shut down upon achieving your goal. So what this means is you set it to a very broad goal. Normally, if you're using ChatGPT, you'd kind of have to babysit it. Say, you know, what is this idea? Can you try again? Can you focus on X? Can you do this? But now you have this overarching idea. You have multiple goals, and then you just let the computer loose. Now, the other really powerful addition to this is that it is given the ability to search Google. So I'm very curious to dig into this, but you can see that in the actions, you can command Google and ask it about upcoming events, and it's going to browse through a number of URLs. And this is really just a matter of giving it that first step. But you can imagine that this particular library can just grow and grow so that you can have connections to actually do real life things. Right now, Google is very powerful, connects it to the internet, but is limited in what it can do. But if I connect an Arduino to it, if I connect, and I'm saying this very fancifully, but if I connect, robotic arms to it, or connect it to other services where it can actually do things, you can see a lot of things happen. Okay, so let's actually get this set up and I can stop talking about it. One of the first things is they asked to use stable, not master. So instead of usually going in here and downloading the zip of all of the code here, I'm just going to go to the releases and pick the latest one, just 10 hours ago. Let me see here. I have this folder ready, and I am going to unzip everything right here. Now, I do have a existing file right here, secrets.python. And for those of you who haven't seen my other videos, that's where I usually keep the API keys that are necessary. And this one, it is necessary because it is demanding, and OpenAI costs money, so they're asking for OpenAI keys. There's a couple of ways you can actually set this up, but the basic minimum requirements. Sorry about that. Just a bit of a skip here. You're going to need Python. You go straight and download Python. There's 3.11. I think 3.10 is pretty stable. That's one option as well. But anything 3.8 and above will work. So you're going to download, install that if you haven't already, and you're going to get your OpenAI key. You're going to need to go on OpenAI, open an account, connect a credit card, and start using OpenAI. There's 2 optional API keys. I'm not using it. I haven't signed up for it, but just Googling this really quickly, 11 Labs lets it speak, so read things out aloud. I don't think that's the only solution possible in theory, but that will be helpful if you want it to respond that in a way that isn't just a big block of text. The other one is Pinecone. This is something that I just learned about right now, and I'm very curious about it in a future video maybe. But Pinecone gives you long-term memory for AI. So if you're using GPT-3, let's not talk about 4 and its weird token count, but if you talk about the previous version, it only has 4,000 tokens, meaning that you only get about 3,000 words. That's the crux of its memory. Now, obviously, it's trained on this massive data set, but the current task at hand, it only has a short amount of space. So if you ask it to read a 100-page paper, it's not going to remember what is in page 1 by the time it hits page, not even 100, but let's say page 10. And that's a real problem, and I'm curious how Pinecone solves it, but it seems like it's a very clever way of just picking the relevant pieces and pushing it forward. So when you're reading page 100, somehow it's figuring out what's important and serving up page 3, 17, 19, 21 in there because it's relevant to whatever question you're asking. So not entirely sure how it works and how it picks these things up, but for now we're going to ignore it. Okay. So install all of this. We're going to need to pip install all of the requirements. So if we go back to the folder I have here, I'm just going to copy it and go to command prompt. Seemed like I had another project running, so I had to, oops. So change into the folder. I'm going to create a virtual environment. And you don't necessarily have to do this, but I do it for every separate project to keep it fairly clean. If you are not super tech savvy, you don't need to do this step. It's going to take a sec here. You can see that it set up the new folder. Very good. So it's done. Oh. Let's see. Okay. What do I want to do? I want to go into the virtual environment. And there, activate the activate.bat file. From there, we're going to try and do the pip install r requirements .text. And of course, you should try and spell that right. And just let it run. It's going to download a bunch of things. None of this seems particularly heavy, so we're going to come here. Rename this .environment template into .env. Oh, I might not need to do that secret file. So we're going to change this. And then we're going to open it in our Microsoft code. Okay, so it looks like you get a ton of settings here. Local commands, max token. Let's keep it all default for now. This is where I'm going to paste my key. I'm going to do this off screen so you guys can't take my key. Oh, and look at that. You can use Azure OpenAI as well. So you don't have to use basic OpenAI. Different models, different token limits. All of these are just settings that you can use. Oh, and look at here. It can generate images through Stable Diffusion or DALL-E. Google, so that you can search things. That's interesting. You can use some other text-to-speech. I don't know if all of this is actually... So this wasn't advertised, so it may not all be functional, but you can see where they're planning to go. I'm sorry, I'm just going to copy and paste my key off screen here. So, where did it go here? And, okay, and I'm going to shut this off so you guys can't take a look. Okay, and at this point, the installation should all be done. So you can see successfully installed, blah, 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 blah. Not going to bother updating pip. That's not important. Okay, don't care here. You can use GPT on an Azure instance, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So, we're going to go back to this environment and let's zoom in a little bit so you can take a look here. Okay. We're going to copy this command here. Python m Auto GPT. No module name. Why is that? Run Auto GPT. Type this into your CMD. Okay, so am I not getting the right one here? No, that seems to be the right folder, so... C Auto GPT, clone. So I didn't use git to clone everything. That could be an issue, but I don't think so. Navigate to project directory, install the dependencies. I did change the file name, yes. If you want to use, don't care about this. So this is not important. Run Auto GPT Python module in your terminal. Okay, let's try this one more time. Let's use Py instead. Okay, so I'm gonna go off screen real quick and see what went wrong here. Quick Googling showed us what was wrong. We should be changing directories to script first. So originally, let me get this back here. Originally, we were running on this Auto GPT folder. We should be changing directories here to scripts and then running the main.py. From there, we get to the demo. So we can give it a name. And what I wanted to call it was Legal Research Bot. Okay, describe your AI's role. Please conduct legal research on the current regulations on artificial intelligence. You know what? That's kind of boring. You know what? Local problem in Vancouver. Repeat offenders who are people who repeatedly commit criminal offenses that are petty and invite very low penalties. Okay, so here is its role, and then now we have 5 goals. So their example is increase net worth, grow Twitter account, develop and manage multiple businesses autonomously. I'm going to say review the legislation in British Columbia for sentencing of petty crimes. Then the next one will be search local news from Vancouver, British Columbia to see what current lawmakers are proposing to fix the issue. And then 3, prepare a short report on what are the likely changes proposed by that will be proposed by lawmakers. So lots of petty theft and small time kind of crime happening, and what happens is kind of a revolving door justice system, and that's been in the news a lot in terms of, do we need to be tougher on crime, do we need to change the system, how do we, should we change sentencing, blah 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 blah. Okay, so we're gonna enter, and then to complete we're just gonna stop here. We can go up to 5 goals, but we only need 3 right now. So enter. So now it's thinking. I'm going to come back in a second here. Okay, so legal research bot thoughts. They need to review the legislation. That's important to understand the current penalties and predict what, if any, changes might be planned. So its plan is to conduct a Google search, review official government websites, and then write a summary of the findings. That makes a lot of sense. Next action. Command Google arguments British Columbia sentencing for petty crimes. Y to authorize command 10 continuous to run n continuous commands, n to exit the program. So we can go Y, and then I can let it go 10 commands, because of course OpenAI does cost money. Well, it got an error for the first set. I don't have a valid API key. Well, let's... Okay, so I had to interrupt because I think it's just going to waste 10 for no good reason. So what it looks like is I failed because I didn't have a Google API key. I figured they could just scrape the internet and didn't really need an API key, but I'm going to go back into that env file and input an API key. And then I'm going to run this quickly on the side. I'll record it, but I'm not going to comment on top of it. So I'll be back. Okay, so I've let it run for quite a while. Well, not that long, maybe 10-15 minutes, but I wanted to go through what I can see is happening here. So first of all, the major problem I was running into was I needed to set up a Google API key and a custom search engine. So follow the instructions. I got confused, but actually, if you follow it to a T and don't try and skip steps, you'll get a lot faster. You'll actually make it work. And let me pull this back up. But what I wanted to show you guys is what is happening here. I asked it to basically be a legal research bot and project future legislation on repeat offenders. And I gave a few kind of intermediate goals. First, Google search around sentencing laws. Second of all, go find recent news about it. And then finally, 3, write a report. I haven't actually completed this research, and I'm trying to look at where this thing all outputs to, but I didn't want to lose the progress because I thought this was a good example. So right off the bat, it's going to take your prompt here, this structured prompt, and it's going to give it some initial thoughts. Its first plan, he or she figures that he wants to search for the current sentencing law to find a base of knowledge. Then that is the essential first step. So the first step is to Google search and research current sentencing laws in British Columbia. Makes a lot of sense. And what's going to happen is it's going to tell itself the next action it's going to do is go on Google and input current sentencing laws in British Columbia. So what's going to happen is it runs through the API, gets a list of these websites. Then it realizes I want to find the provincial court and the BC Court of Appeals websites, like official websites, to figure out what's happening. It has the same structure, same thing. This time it's going to specifically look at 2 different websites. And each time you can step by step say yes, or you can just skip 10 steps at a time or 100 steps at a time. But the next bit is it's going to generate a summary of that website. So first of all, it's going to figure out the length of the text. It might chunk it out, but this one's quite short. So it figures it out, and the next plan is it's going to look for judgments or decisions around repeat offenders. And this is where I'm starting to get a little bit worried because, there are so many judgments, thousands and thousands that you could go through, and this could chew up my credit card in no time. So I was a bit concerned, but I let it keep running. It's going to go through, keep searching, and then the next plan is since I couldn't find any relevant information on the 2 courts website, next thing I'm going to do is look for recent news. So it's moving on to step 2. Once again, command Google, go through a bunch of them. Google, go through a bunch of them. So you're going to see Google is obviously a very good research tool. This one, it's reading a file, so it found something useful in one of the blog posts, so it's going to probably summarize it. Turns out it's useless, so it does nothing. Next thing, it's going to browse websites instead of Google searching it. And you can see it just keeps going, and at a certain point it's going to write to file, and I wonder why I couldn't find anything. Oh, I think I must have been looking. No, that's not true. Logs? No. Hang on just 1 second, folks. Let me see if I can find this repeat offender in my file. I don't think I see anything. So it's writing somewhere here, list of common approaches and measures taken, blah, blah, blah. It's going to append more to that file and append more, so now it's starting to record what's found out. Then it comes back to Google, blah, 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 blah. So you can see we can keep going. And what I wanted to do is see if I can nudge it in the right direction. So I can go Y to go one step next, Y and the number of steps if I wanted to do 10 or 100 commands, but I wanted to see what happens N, because you can exit program or enter feedback for LRBot. I wanted to know if I can nudge it in the right direction right now. No, I couldn't. So all that was not particularly helpful. I was hoping that I can nudge it, say, just finish up your report now, don't keep crawling. But that was really interesting, because you can see how it is it's giving itself structure. So every time it opines on what its current step is, why it thinks that, what its next plan is, and it even criticizes some of its steps if it feels like there needs to be some sort of fix. Now all this seems to be JSON related, but I'm sure it could be otherwise included. But at the end of the day, hopefully it's able to output a file and something that I can take a look at. But this is still a very new script, so I'm not putting too much into it, whether it can do the research or not. But I wanted to look at the code itself. So there's a couple, and I keep in mind I only browsed this for like 10 minutes, so I don't know the ins and outs. But how does this work? So if you go to main, you're going to see how it actually asks those initial questions. So that initial prompt, you see it gives itself a name, a role, and goals, and this is what presumably it's going to submit for this first step. I found it interesting because summary is so key, at least to my particular bit of usage, and this is kind of similar to before. It is doing that to one of my previous videos in which we're talking about recursive summarization. Because you can't go past like 3,000 words or so, it has to chunk out bits and pieces, and this is it. It's going to chunk it out for the first 2,000 words, summarize it. Second 2,000 words, summarize it. Get a bunch of these blocks, join them together, 10 summaries together, then summarize those all together. It's not the best way of doing it, but it gives you something. What I found interesting was this prompt generator. This is where it keeps saying it describes what it was doing, and that's this format right here, thoughts, reasoning, plan, criticism. So what it's submitting seemingly is this thought, reasoning, short bulleted list that conveys long-term plan, constructive self-criticism, thoughts, summary to say to user. So I think this is roughly the prompts that it's throwing into chat-gpt to try and get a response back. Maybe not even chat-gpt, maybe just GPT itself. And then it's going to try and get a command back. So what I wanted to do, and I think it was over here. Yes, you can see the range of what it can do. Agents are, these bots. So you can create new agents. So presumably it can spin off a separate agent that has a different role and different goals. Get text summary, get hyperlinks, read file, write file, append file, delete file, search files, browse website, evaluate code, write tests. So generate image, no action perform. So you can see right here, this is the breadth of what this AI can do. And in theory, you could start adding more and more. If you have other APIs that can turn on and off your oven, or interact with your home, or, I don't know, interact with your phone, you can do various things. Let me see if there's anything else that kind of stood out. Prompt generator, I think that was the one. But the other ones, like, there's lots of utilities. Clearly, file operations, this is how it writes, deletes, changes code. Image generation, this is how it involves Dolly or Stable Diffusion. A whole bunch of these. together. And, I find it fascinating. I don't think, I think they've given plenty of disclaimers here to say, don't use this. This is not, complete. This is just a thought experiment, and I think that's true. Do I think I'm going to get a perfect report out of this? No, but it's very interesting, and I think it takes very little imagination to realize just how powerful this approach is. So I'm gonna stop it here. I'm gonna run it for another 10 commands, but I'm gonna stop it here, and if I see something new pop out, I might append it to the end of this video. So thanks for watching. I'm gonna pay attention to this, and we might take a look at this again in a month or two when it's built up further. This is just a couple of days. I think it's been out for 2 weeks or something, but just a couple of days of actual constructive real interest. But other people are making huge use out of it, and I'm excited to see the future. Anyways, I will see you folks next week for another video. Thanks for watching.